We start to kind of been through a crazy few days, moving into a Monday. I thought it would be interesting to just kind of step back a little bit and maybe offer out into all of the communication that's going on now, just a little bit of background and experience on what businesses should do when the world changes. Without question, we're going through a crisis at the moment, and that is going to change not only how we operate today, but long term how we operate as businesses. And having been through several crises as a business leader, in 9/11, I was the director of risk management in an internet-only bank during that time, which was crazy and surreal at the moment. And then later, I actually owned and was the CEO of a mortgage lead management software business during the 2008 financial crisis and mortgage meltdown, which again changed everything in business and everything about my businesses. And so as we kind of go through this next crisis, I just wanted to kind of sit back as I actually do my own risk management with my own marketing agency, is to really kind of offer out to you a little bit of experience. And probably first and foremost, it's always important as I kind of recounted some of those major crises, and depending on what business you're in, you've probably been through those as well as some others, and so you have your own experiences specific to the particular industry you're in. But in all of those cases, it has been 100% consistent that we will move through that crisis and we will come out the other end in a good way, with a slightly different new normal though. So as I go through this, just want to again offer a little bit of experience and hopefully wisdom into some of the decision making that you're going through as you work through this crisis alongside of us and a whole bunch of other business colleagues as well. So first and foremost, I would say always prioritize the health and well-being of your family, your friends, your neighbors. Those are the highest priorities. And anything that's happening in your business or as an employee inside of a business, none of those things have a higher priority than what you should be doing as it applies to your family, your friends, and of course your neighbors. So prioritize that and know that the other stuff will wait. The second thing that I would advise, and has always served me well, is to seek out, listen to, and find wise counsel. The kind of fact of the matter is crises are not new, and they will continue to confront us in the future. And so the positive to that is there are a lot of people who have experienced crisis in the past, and so there's a lot of experience and wisdom out there. A lot of people who have been through similar situations, experts in their field, and we live in a day and age where there is so much communication and open channels to really kind of tune in to all of those experts and make those experts accessible to you, whether it's through Twitter or YouTube or all these different channels, whereas before those kind of all filtered through a central channel and maybe a news outlet. Now all of those experts are available to you. You have to seek out and begin to follow and listen to those. So I encourage you to do that. The other thing, and this is probably the biggest sort of factor as we start to think about the business activities that we should be doing, is just simply communicating a lot. Communicate with your employees, with your customers, tell them what you're doing, how you can serve them in this particular moment, and then of course giving some sense of stability by showing out and sharing out the plan that you have for moving through the crisis. And this, of course, is going to mean, and I've seen a lot of this kind of being done negatively, but you have to make sure, particularly as it pertains to marketing, a lot of you that I'm going to be talking to are marketing professionals because that's who we talk to generally, but really making sure that you're shifting into crisis communication. Turn off your marketing automation. As you start to just kind of kick out that business as usual marketing, it really feels tone deaf and insensitive and of course irrelevant in a lot of ways. And I'm seeing a bunch of that out there where people are just continuing to sort of pump out their normal content calendar, if you will, editorial calendar, and it's really landing flat or even, like I said, just not at all relevant, or in some cases completely sort of insensitive to what's going on. So make sure that you're shifting into that crisis communication and you're adjusting your communication to be appropriate and relevant in the moment and as to what things are going on right now. There's all kinds of things, regardless of what your business is, that you can contribute to the conversation, and you can continue to increase awareness around your brand, but to do it in a good and a relevant way. So I encourage you to do that. The other thing that I think is really important is to carefully survey what's changing. So obviously with any crisis or any disruption in business, there will be changes. And there will be short-term changes, things that are just going to be different for a time being, and then potentially will go away and we'll go back to normal. But there will also be a lot of things that will change and have long-term impacts and literally change the way your business operates, or maybe even what your business is. So let me go through a quick list, because I'm keeping a list, and you should do as well, of things, and make sure that they're categorized appropriately so that you don't alter your business in a way that impacts you negatively for the long term. For instance, if it's a short-term effect, don't stop doing your business and go into a whole nother business if this is just a short-term impact. So let's go through this list of short-term changes first. So obviously COVID-19 will infect and it will grow in its impact on our world for about 2 months. So interesting, unlike a lot of crises that we've been through, 9/11, the financial crisis, the term of that crisis was really unknown because there were so many things in both of those situations that we just simply didn't know about why it was happening and what was causing it to happen. In this particular case, although it is definitely unique in a sense of crisis, it's not sort of a man-made crisis, it's a sort of a natural occurring crisis that creates its own sort of weirdness about it, but we do kind of know that it is finite in its impact, and we have one model already with China where we've actually seen the virus move through, the curve flatten, and us return to a normal situation. So we sort of have a model that's already in place, and it looks like that virus, if we do everything that we should and is appropriate, should run its course in about 2 months' time. So it is a finite term. So the actual effector in this crisis is finite and somewhat known. People, of course, will begin to isolate in their homes. Hopefully they're doing this. This includes children as a result of schools being closed, and of course adults as people are encouraged to work from home. And so that's going to create a whole different dynamic. Work from home is likely to cause some business confusion, inefficiencies, and in some cases disruption. That's not necessarily the primary mode. A lot of people have done remote work. A lot of people have had the flexibility to work from home. But the vast majority of the workforce is not set up to do that for any length of time. And so that's going to have some short-term impact as people are trying to figure out how to do that in their own homes. Travel and retail will come to an abrupt stoppage. We're already seeing this. Airlines are cutting capacity by 70% on international travel. I suspect that we'll probably see that domestically as well. It's just simply harder and less advantageous to kind of move around and travel, and that affects a whole bunch of industries, not just transportation, but hotels and restaurants and all of that infrastructure for a society that has been highly mobile, and all of a sudden that's just going to come to an abrupt stop. And then of course retail, again, encouraged only to go out for the necessities and buy those things, and so our malls are already immediately being impacted, and there's a whole bunch of retail companies who have said that they're actually shutting down their stores. So that's going to be, again, a short-term and abrupt stoppage. Financial markets, we're seeing that this morning as we take a look at what's happening there, going to operate unpredictably. One example in particular, we work with a lot of mortgage lenders. The mortgage market itself was largely kind of stalled, and all of a sudden it's just going to light up with refi activity. And a lot of our lenders are trying to figure out, and this is where we're kind of helping with some things is trying to figure out how to actually address that surge. The mortgage market hasn't been as big as it was in 2008, and so there's just simply not the capacity to actually do the lending the way it was back then. So we have only a limited and much smaller core of licensed loan officers, and so there's just simply a capacity issue that we'll probably experience in the short term. And so there's all kinds of little things like that in the financial markets that we're just discovering are potentially points of friction that are going to make the financial markets work in an unpredictable way for a short period of time. Looking at the long-term changes, healthcare systems and processes certainly are going to improve through this. The innovation that's taking place right now is at a rapid fever pitch pace, and I have to believe at the end there will be long-term advantages to that. Any sort of crisis creates the need for innovation, and so I think we're going to see that in healthcare. Remote work probably going to become a more common mode of business. Businesses are going to figure out how to operate in this mode. Individual workers are going to enjoy that experience in some instances, and the technology is kind of there to enable it. So there's a large probability that that's going to become a more important mode of business as we go forward. Digital, we're already seeing this, will become increasingly the primary mode of business. Some interesting things. We work with some large churches, and within literally about 48 hours, we helped many of those churches to go 100% online in serving their congregations. And so that's a complete just 180 shift. Churches, especially these kind of churches, are generally large gatherings. Similar industries to this are the conference and event industry. A lot of them have taken their whole conferences and their events, and they're trying to move them 100% online. And so we're going to see situations like that where digital is at least for the moment, and probably for a few months, going to have to be 100% of their operating business operations and the mode of operations, whereas before it was 100% not that. And so that's going to be interesting from a long-term effect. We will probably see a lot of those businesses retain that mode of business operations, which will be unique and create a whole bunch of opportunities there. I think websites will become the primary corporate headquarters, whereas we have these large buildings that represent large corporate headquarters. The website itself and some of the supporting infrastructures will actually become those headquarters and that primary function, whereas before kind of websites were out there and useful for marketing, and there were some platforms, some intranets, and some things like Slack, but I think more and more digital will become the primary headquarters of the business, and so that in particular the website is going to mean that a lot of companies are going to have to upgrade and increase their investment in that online channel and that online mode of operations. Websites themselves are going to need to become more flexible and responsive as communication platforms. I think a lot of companies are seeing right now that they have got websites that were set up to be marketing brochures in essence, and so the capability to rapidly update them with new content or even alter the content that's on those websites, they're going to run into problems. They're going to run into challenges because they weren't built that way. They either weren't built on content management systems, or they were built in such a customized way that they weren't really kind of envisioned to be active communication channels and actively pushing content into that website and being able to maintain its structure and not break and all those sorts of things. So I think we're going to see a lot of that. The other thing that's interesting that I don't think people are talking about yet, but I know it's true, at least anecdotally, is I think mobile phones are actually going to become the primary computing device. A lot of times people are reliant on the computers that they're given for work or that they have at work, and when they go home, they actually use their mobile phones. So now that we've gone in kind of this isolation mode, I think you're going to see the mobile traffic on your website spike incredibly, and you're going to find out that more and more of your customers are just going to move to that mobile. And so your website, increasingly, we've been talking about being mobile responsive for a long time, but I think we're going to have to start thinking about mobile only as being how clients and customers are going to interact with our websites, because they're just going to prefer that device, or it's just going to be more efficient for them. As they move through this crisis, that's just going to become more and more evident, because that's probably what they're keeping up with the news on. That's probably what they have at home over desktop computers. A lot of times, as desktop computers in the home have kind of gotten old or broken, they just simply haven't been replaced because the mobile phones are so capable. And then last but not least, of course, new products and services are going to evolve out of this. And so it's important to be surveying what those shifts are and what those potential new opportunities for products and services will be. So given all this, I am kind of recommending, the whole reason I did this video was to kind of recommend to you some of the things that you should be doing as a business leader to be focusing on during this time. And quite honestly, these are the things that I am doing at this moment. So first and foremost, communicating a lot. Over communication is just not a thing during a crisis. So as much as possible, be pushing out content, be emailing, be doing videos if you feel comfortable with that, but get information out there into the public domain, and in particular, make sure that you're communicating with your customers and clients. I'll be focusing on my team, in particular on encouraging them to serve our customers and to shift our services to what the clients may need at the moment. Because in these moments, regardless of what our standard sort of business as usual services are, we're extra hands and expertise in that crisis. And so the focus that I'll give my team at our morning stand-up is to really be listening and talking to the client and see what they need at this moment and try to prioritize that. And outside of that, keeping focused on the projects that we're working on and making sure that those are moving forward on schedule, on time, in an excellent way, so that those businesses, those clients of ours, feel the stability that we bring to their business. The other thing that I will be heavily focused on is kind of the Wayne Gretzky quote, is skating to where the puck is. I'm constantly going to be surveying and paying attention to the market, listening to my clients, and knowing and trying to assess how everything is going to change as a result of this crisis, and making sure that we're positioned for the future and whatever that new normal will be. And so that's a critical phase, and I did this through every crisis that I've been through, and as a general rule have come out stronger because of it, because I'm always watching to see what's going to happen after here, what's going to endure, what's going to change, potentially what's going to go away, and make sure that we're positioned as a company to be in a position to be that sustainable thing going forward, and to come out of this in a stronger way. And then, of course, talking to a lot of smart people. Most of my day-to-day is going to be actually emailing and calling and talking to people, and trying to get an understanding of their perspective, what they're doing, what they're thinking, and what all of this looks like and means from their perspective. And then, of course, trying to be helpful to those folks, and just tapping into that network during these times is super important, and will give you as a business leader lots of advantages in this moment. So I would encourage you, hopefully this has been helpful. Feel free to be a part of that network. Just reach out to me on Twitter. I'm super active most of the time, but in particular now, super active there, active on LinkedIn as well. And then, of course, you can always email me at bill.rice@kaleidoco.com. And like I said, communication is the primary thing that I'm going to be doing during the next several weeks as we kind of move through this virus pandemic. So hope for you to focus and watch after your friends, your family, your neighbors, your team, and really hunker down, but have your head up and be thinking about what you should be doing to be a part of the solution as we kind of move through this crisis. So hope to continue to talk to you. Go ahead and subscribe or hit me up on any of these channels, and would love to talk more to you. Have a great day. Stay safe. And take care of your friends, your family, your neighbors, and your team.